Okay, so this is lecture number 35. It's a continuation of the previous lecture. So what we were discussing was the proof of the following statement, that the automorphisms, the holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk. So delta is the unit disk, and we were trying to show that the set of holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk are exactly maps of the form. They are Mobius transformations. They are given by maps of the form z going to e to the I alpha z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z, where alpha is of course an angle and z naught is an element in the unit disk. Okay, and what we saw in the towards the end of the last lecture was that we saw that any map of the form z going to e to the I alpha into z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z is indeed a Mobius transformation So this Mobius is this O with two dots on top of it. It's called as O umlaut, and it is supposed to be the German symbol for OE put together. Okay, so this is MOE, OE, half O and half E. Okay, so this is Mobius transformation. It's of course also called as bilinear transformation or linear fractional transformation. Okay, so it is indeed a Mobius transformation that maps the unit disk onto the unit disk. Okay, so the right hand side is of course contained in the left hand side. So an element here is here. What I will have to show is that conversely any holomorphic automorphism of the unit disk is of that form. Okay, so what I am going to do is so I will conversely let F be a holomorphic automorphism of unit disk. So what is happening is, see you have F here. All I know about F is that it's an isomorphism, it's holomorphic, its inverse is also holomorphic, and it goes from the unit disk to the unit disk, and and I have to show that F is of this form. Okay, so I have to find an alpha and a z naught such that F of z is actually e to the I alpha into z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z. Right, now what you must understand is that, see, if F takes 0 to 0 then we are already done, because if F takes 0 to 0 then it will be an automorphism of the unit disk which fixes the origin, and we have already seen as a corollary to Schwarz's lemma in earlier lectures that it has to be a rotation. So so F will be of the form e power I alpha times z, okay, which is just this map with z not equal to 0, okay. Therefore the problem is when 0 does not go to the origin, right, that is the issue. So what we do is you know, we just take see we well, let us look at what 0 goes to, alright. So for that matter, you know, I can fix any point z0, okay, and suppose z0 goes to the point w0. So my map is w equal to f of z. I take a point z0, it goes to the point w0, alright. Now what I am going to do is I am going to write on this side a holomorphic automorphism of the unit disk which takes 0 to z0, okay. I am going to do that, and you know what I am going to do, I am going to use the first statement, I am going to use this statement. So what I am going to do is it's very simple, you know, if I take this map to be z going to z minus z0 by 1 minus z0 bar z, suppose I take this map, okay, then I already told you that this map is a Mobius transformation that maps the interior of the unit disk to the unit disk, okay, and it will take z0 to 0. So the point z0 will go to the origin, okay, and what I am going to do is this map, this is going to be the inverse of that map, okay. So you know, so I am going to call this as G, okay, and this is my G inverse, and I know G inverse is a map that takes the unit disk to the unit disk, and it will map z0 to 0, because you know in this if you substitute z equal to z0 you will get 0, and this is a Mobius transformation, and I am going to take its inverse. So the inverse map will take 0 to z0, okay, and then this f will take z0 to w0, okay, because w0 is f of z0, right, and then you know I am going to then again apply another map here that will move w0 to 0, alright, and what is that map, you know what that map is, I will call that as h. So and this map is going to be so I am going to just map w0 to 0, and you know what that map is, it is just w going to same formula w minus w0 by 1 minus w0 bar w, okay. This map will map w0 to 0 and it will be an automorphism of the unit disk, okay. So both for this side and for this side I am using this fact that I have already proved in the last lecture, right, and now watch, if I take so this is h, okay, if I take the composition what will I get, see this is also an automorphism unit disk, f is also an automorphism unit disk, and h is also an automorphism unit disk, therefore if you compose you will get the composition of all the three will give you an automorphism unit disk to unit disk, and it will fix the origin because it will take 0 to 0, that is the whole idea of putting this G on this side and h on that side. So it will be an automorphism unit disk which fixes the origin, which by an earlier corollary of the Schwarz lemma we have seen is a rotation. So what you will get is you will get that if you take first apply G, then apply F, then apply H, is an automorphism, yeah, a holomorphic automorphism of the unit disk which fixes the origin, okay. but you know any automorphism, holomorphic automorphism of the unit disk which fixes the origin is a rotation. That is the first corollary, one of the corollaries of the, that is a corollary of the Schwarz lemma that we have seen. Okay, so by a corollary to the Schwarz lemma, what you will get is that H circle F circle G of W is just going to be a rotation, and therefore it is of the form e power I alpha W. Okay, since you know this is something that we have already seen, this set of automorphisms, holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk which preserve the origin. So this is a subset of this set. These are all holomorphic automorphisms, bijective holomorphic maps of the unit disk onto itself, and these are the subset of maps which send 0 to 0, and this is the same as, this is identified with this is equal to rotations, the set of all z going to e to the I alpha z, where alpha is varying from 0 to up to 2 pi. Okay, and this is identified with you know S1, which is the boundary of the unit disk. We have already seen this, and this is what I am using here. Okay, so H circle F circle G is an element here, therefore it is a rotation. So it is just the variable multiplied by an e power I alpha for suitable, for some alpha, okay, for some alpha 0 less than or equal to alpha less than 2 pi. Of course alpha is just an angle and you have to read it mod 2 pi. Okay, so I think I will have to worry about my variables here. So here this is the z plane, this is z plane, and this is omega plane, and let me call this as eta plane. So this is neta. So neta is h of w, okay, and w is f set, and here let me use zeta, and zeta yeah, z is g of zeta. So this is zeta. Zeta goes to z under z goes to zeta is g inverse, and zeta goes to z is g. Okay, so here you have the variables. So if I use these variables, then I should, let me change this variable to neta, okay, because not neta, it should be zeta. So you know you will get so g zeta, g of zeta is z, okay, so I will get h of f of z. See, h of f of g of zeta is h of f of g zeta, but g zeta is z, so I will get f of z. So I will get h of f of z is equal to e power I alpha into zeta, and what is the formula for zeta? The formula for zeta is z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z. Okay, so I will get, so f of z will be h inverse of this okay, and what is the formula for h inverse? It's going to be the map in this direction, so it will be h inverse of neta will be what? You have to solve this for omega, okay. So you have to solve this for omega, and what will you get? Well, if I make that calculation somewhere, let me make it somewhere here. See, I'll get neta is equal to W minus W naught by 1 minus W naught bar W. You cross multiply, you get neta minus W naught bar W neta is equal to W minus W naught. So I am solving for so it's neta going to W. I want to write W in terms of neta, that's H inverse. H inverse of neta is W. Once I have a formula for H inverse neta, I'll apply it to this. Okay, so I'll have to calculate W from this or omega from this. So I'll get omega into so I'll get neta plus W naught is equal to omega plus W plus W naught bar W neta, which is W into 1 plus W naught bar neta. So you will get W equal to neta plus W naught by 1 plus W naught bar neta. This is the formula for W. So this is neta plus W naught by 1 plus W naught bar W, so W naught bar neta. So this is the formula for H inverse of neta, right, and apply it to this. Apply it to this and you will get again an expression of this form. Okay, you would I mean, if you must have probably done this such exercises when you have taken a first course in complex analysis, but it's very easy to do it even if you haven't done it. So I just have to apply. So this is my neta. Okay, so I substitute it in here. I will get e to the I alpha into z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z plus W naught by 1 plus W naught bar into neta, which is this e to the I alpha into z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z. This is what I get. Okay, in this whole calculation I have chosen z naught, I have chosen some z naught in the unit disk, and I have taken W naught to be the image of z naught. Okay, but you know, I can make special choices. For example, I can take W naught equal to 0 if you want. I can reduce the calculation by, I can make the calculation simple by simply taking W naught equal to 0. W naught equal to 0 means I am taking z naught, so I am taking the unique point z naught that goes to 0 under f. Okay, so you make that assumption, choose the unique z naught in delta with f of z naught is equal to W naught is equal to 0. This has to happen because after all f is given to be a holomorphic automorphism of delta, therefore there is something is mapped to 0. Okay, whatever is point is mapped to 0, you call that as z naught. Okay, so if you do this, then you are actually putting W naught equal to 0, and if you put W naught equal to 0, you get f of z in the form that you want. Okay, so W naught equal to 0 gives f of z to be simply, you put W naught equal to 0, you see this is gone, this is gone, you will simply get e power I alpha z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z. Okay, immediately. And that's the proof, that's the end of the proof. So what you have done is you started with an element here f here and showed that it is of this form. Okay, so these two are one and the same. Okay, and so in fact there is so in fact the truth is that this is also a group. The holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk, that is also a group, because this is a subgroup, this is also a certain subgroup of Mobius transformations. Mobius transformations, mind you, form a group because you can compose Mobius, the group law, the group multiplication is just composition. Okay, so under composition Mobius transformations form a group, and this is a subgroup of Mobius transformations. Okay, these are the these are certainly I mean these are Mobius transformations of this particular form, and they are exactly the automorphism of the unit disk, okay, and it is a subgroup under composition of mappings, alright, and there is a much smaller subgroup. Among these you have the smaller subgroup which are further those which fix the origin, and they are the rotations, okay. These are not rotations, there is this part is a rotation, there is something more here, okay. So the fact is, just like this subgroup of Mobius transformations that fix the origin are the rotations, it can be identified with the boundary, okay, that also can be identified in a nice way, okay. It can be identified with delta, it can be identified with delta cross the boundary, okay. So you see what will happen is that if you take the holomorphic automorphisms of delta, that I have written down, the set of all maps of the form z going to e to the I alpha into z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z, where alpha is an angle trade mod 2 pi and z naught is a point with point in the unit disk, okay. Now from here I can I can give you a map into delta cross dole delta, which is delta cross S1. S1 is the unit circle, okay, set of all complex numbers with modulus 1, so it is numbers of the form e power I alpha, okay. And you know what is this map? This map is, you send the map, you send the Mobius transformation z going to e to the I alpha z minus z naught by 1 minus z naught bar z, you simply send this to a pair where this first member is this z naught, because you see z naught is an element of the unit disk, and the second member is that e power I alpha, and because e power I alpha will be on the boundary of the unit disk, which is the unit circle, okay. And what will happen is that this will be also an isomorphism of groups, this will be an isomorphism of groups, alright. So and what will happen is that this will contain properly the automorphic holomorphisms, I mean holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk which preserve the origin, okay, which are only the rotations, and only rotations means that it will correspond to z naught equal to 0, so only rotations, okay. And what you will get is the same map will give you this isomorphism, it will, you are going to send z going to e to the I alpha z to simply S1, you are going to send this to the element e power I alpha of S1, okay, and this is identified as 0 cross S1, which is sitting inside S1, okay. So the holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk are identified with delta cross S1, okay, whereas the subgroup of holomorphic automorphisms which fix the origin are simply identified with S1. So S1, so you have an identification of as a group of both the automorphisms of delta and the automorphisms of delta which fix the origin, alright. So this is a remark. Now of course this diagram commutes, okay, and these vertical arrows are both group homomorphisms, okay, they are not just bijective maps, they are group homomorphisms, right. So now you see we come to so see what we have just looked at are the automorphisms of the unit disk, okay. The question is, what can you say about a general analytic map of the unit disk onto itself? What are the most general statements you can make? So I mean, what can you say about maps which are not automorphisms of the unit disk but which are maps, analytic maps of the unit disk into itself, okay? What can you say about such maps? So I will tell you what the main result is. The main result is that on the unit disk, okay, there is a metric called the hyperbolic metric. Okay, it is a way of defining the distance between 2 points in the unit disk. Of course, you know, metric is something that gives you the distance between 2 points in a space. Okay, so on the unit disk there is a special metric, it is called the hyperbolic metric, and we will see what that metric is later. But the point is, what the Schwarz lemma actually says is that if you take an analytic function from the unit disk to itself which is not an automorphism, then with respect to this hyperbolic metric it is a contraction, it is a contraction mapping. Okay, so this is the philosophical statement, I mean this is the ideological statement. The ideological statement is, I mean this is the statement that we need, this statement is needed for proceeding with the proof of the Riemann mapping theorem. Okay, you see in the last lecture what we did was we proved that if you give me a simply connected domain which is not the whole complex plane, then I can conformally map it to a subdomain of the unit disk, that is what we proved. Okay, but then somehow you have to alter the map so that the image fills out the whole unit disk, because finally the Riemann mapping theorem requires, I mean the proof of the theorem requires you to find an isomorphism, holomorphic isomorphism of the given simply connected domain which is not the whole complex plane with the whole unit disk. Okay, so that is the reason we have to study the hyperbolic geometry on the unit disk, right. And the point is that the Schwarz lemma actually in a disguised avatar of itself actually tells you that with respect to this hyperbolic metric on the unit disk, if you take an arbitrary analytic function which is not an isomorphism of the unit disk onto itself, then it has to only contract. So the moral of the story is, if either it is an isomorphism of the unit disk onto itself, okay, if it is not an isomorphism unit disk onto itself, it will be a contraction mapping, which means you take 2 points, okay, and you take their images, the distance between the images will be smaller in the hyperbolic metric than the distance between the original points. That is what a contraction mapping is. A contraction mapping between two metric spaces is a map that reduces the distance. Okay, the distance between two source points is greater than the distance between the image points. That is what a contraction mapping is. And what the statement of the result that we need is that if you take an analytic map of the unit disk into itself which is not an isomorphism, which is not a member here, then it is certainly a contraction map for the hyperbolic metric. Alright, so for that I will have to introduce the hyperbolic metric, okay, and then of course there is also the question that what will happen to these maps, what will happen to holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk under the hyperbolic metric. The answer is that they will preserve the metric, they will be isometries. Okay, a map between two metric spaces is called an isometry if it preserves distances, that is you take 2 points in the source metric space and you take their images under this map, then the distance between the images is the same as the distance between the source points. If the distance is preserved, the mapping is called isometric. Okay, so what happens is whenever you take a map from the unit disk to itself which is analytic, either it is an isomorphism and it preserves the hyperbolic metric, or it is a contraction, so it will shrink the image of the domain. Okay, so this is a geometric fact in hyperbolic geometry which we need, okay, and that is what I am trying to explain. So you know everything comes from Schwarz lemma, you know, so the fact is that Schwarz lemma gives you a description of the holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk which fix the origin and also the general holomorphic automorphisms of the unit disk. Not only that, it also gives you information about any other analytic map of the unit disk onto itself. Okay, so the first thing is let us recall the Schwarz lemma. So here is the Schwarz lemma. The Schwarz lemma is, well, f is defined from the unit disk and taking values in the closed unit disk analytic, f takes 0 to 0, okay. Then mod f z is less than or equal to mod z for all z in delta. This is the Short's lemma, which already tells you that any analytic mapping of the unit disk is a contraction, okay, in the sense that if you measure the distance from the origin, then it is a contraction, okay. The mod fz is just the distance from the origin of the image fz of the point z under f, and the distance from the origin of the image cannot exceed the distance from the origin of the source point, that is what it says. So the fact that there is a contraction is already there in Short's lemma, okay, but what we are going to do is we are going to improve upon this, okay. And of course what is the other statement in Short's lemma? If you get equality here for even a single z naught, then it is a rotation, okay. Equality occurs for some z naught in delta z naught not equal to 0 if and only if f is a rotation, okay. So this is the Short's lemma. From this version of the Short's lemma I am going to get another version of the Short's lemma, which is called the differential version of the Short's lemma, okay. So let me write this differential version of the Short's lemma. So what is the differential version of the Short's lemma? You see, again differential version is that you have the result in terms of derivative at the origin, okay. So again you take f defined on the unit disk and taking values on the closed unit disk analytic, and f of 0 is equal to 0, that is it takes the origin to the origin, okay. Then the differential version says you take the derivative at the origin of f that cannot exceed 1, okay. The derivative at the origin of any analytic map of the unit disk into the closed unit disk, the derivative cannot exceed 1, okay. And again equality occurs if and only if it is a rotation, if and only if f is a rotation, okay. So this is the differential version of Short's lemma, or infinitesimal version of Short's lemma, because it involves the original statement in the original Short's lemma involves f, okay, whereas the differential version will involve its derivative, it gives you a bound for its derivative. The derivative of any analytic map from the unit disk to the unit disk at the origin cannot exceed 1, and it will be 1 only if it is a rotation. If it is not a rotation, then it will be strictly less than 1, that is what it says, okay. Now so what is the proof of the differential version? You can get the proof of the differential version from the original version, okay. And what is the proof for that? So you see we have mod f of z is less than or equal to mod z. This is already there by the Short's lemma, alright. So what you do is for z not equal to 0 you divide and you take a limit and you will get this, because after all limit z tends to 0 f of z by z is just f dash, because f of 0 equal to 0, okay. So you get it. So so this implies, so modulus of f dash of 0 is modulus of limit z tends to 0 f of z minus f of 0 by z minus 0, which is modulus of limit z tends to 0 f of z by z. But you know, if the limit of some expression exists, okay, then modulus is a continuous function, so I can remove the limit outside, okay. So I can write this as limit z tends to 0 mod fz by z, but mod fz by z, of course when I say limit z tends to 0 I am assuming z is not equal to 0, okay. So if z is not equal to 0, mod fz by z is less than or equal to 1, and this inequality is because of the original Schwarz lemma, okay. Therefore so this is a quantity less than or equal to 1 and you are taking the limit, so this is also going to be less than or equal to 1, okay. So you get this is the differential form of infinitesimal version of the Schwarz lemma, okay. Then we have to say one more thing, we must say that the derivative is 1 if and only if it is a rotation, okay. And why is that true? If the derivative is equal to 1, okay, then the function, the analytic function g of z is equal to fz by z, okay. So if you remember the in the last lecture or the lecture before that where we proved Schwarz lemma, what we did was we defined this function g of z to be fz by z and applied the maximum principle to it, okay, because it was analytic. It was not defined at z equal to 0, but then at z equal to 0 it had only a removable singularity, okay, which you can see because the z will cancel off if you write out a Taylor expansion of f at 0, namely if you write a Maclaurin expansion of f at 0, the first constant term will be 0, that is because f of 0 equal to 0, alright, and the z will cancel out, and therefore g of z will be represented by a convergent power series at the origin, therefore it is also analytic at the origin. Therefore this is actually, though I am writing fz by z, it extends to an analytic function at z equal to 0, it is just like sin z by z. If I take limit z tends to 0, I will just get g of 0 is equal to f dash of 0, okay. And what this will tell you, so modulus of g dash of g of 0 will be 1. If mod f dash of 0 is 1, then mod g0 will be 1, okay. And you see now go back to the again to the proof of the Schwarz lemma. In the Schwarz lemma what we did was we applied the maximum principle to g, which is f of z by z, and showed that the maximum value of mod g is always less than or equal to 1. I mean actually we proved mod g is less than or equal to 1, which translated to mod fz less than or equal to z, which is the conclusion of the Schwarz lemma, okay. So and what is the maximum principle, what does it say? If the maximum modulus, if the maximum value is it occurs at an interior point, then the function is a constant, okay. So by the maximum principle for g, principle for g is a constant on the unit disk, okay. You will get g is a constant for g is a constant on the unit disk, and that constant is and mod g will be mod of that constant on delta, which will be mod g0, which will be 1. So this implies that this constant has modulus 1, okay. So mod g is mod of that constant, and mod g is mod of that constant, it has to be equal to mod g0, but mod g0 is 1, So modulus of that constant is 1, okay, it is a complex number with modulus 1, therefore it is of the form e power I alpha. So g of z is of the form e power I alpha, it is a constant function. But what is g of z? G of z is f of z by z. So this will tell you that f of z is a rotation. So in other words, you know, you have proved the differential form of Short's lemma. The derivative at the origin of an analytic map of the unit disk onto itself cannot exceed in modulus 1, okay, its modulus cannot exceed 1, and it is equal to 1 if and only if it is an automorphism, and that automorphism has to be a rotation. So if it is not a rotation, the derivative of the origin is strictly less than 1, that is the infinitesimal version of the Short's lemma. Okay, so that finishes the proof of this. Okay, so this is the differential version of the Short's lemma, and now we come to you know this question of trying to generalize this differential version of the Short's lemma. So you can ask, what will happen if I put instead of 0 is z here, okay. So take an analytic function from the unit disk to the unit disk, okay. I know f dash 0 in modulus is less than or equal to 1, but my question is what will happen if you take f dash of z for z an arbitrary point on the unit disk, not necessarily the point 0, okay, then also you get a bound, and that is a grander version of the Short's lemma, and that is called Pick's lemma, okay, and which is a fundamental lemma that is required for hyperbolic geometry, okay. So I will just state Pick's lemma somewhere, I think, so here is Pick's lemma. So again same assumptions, f from delta to delta bar analytic, f takes 0 to 0, okay, no, I do not think I need f takes 0 to 0, I do not need that, this is very general. F is any analytic map, f is any analytic map from the unit disk taking values in the closed unit disk, okay, and then you see mod f dash of z, okay, is less than or equal to 1 minus mod f z squared by 1 minus mod z squared for all z in delta, okay. You see, if you in this, you know, if I take in particular an analytic function which takes 0 to 0, okay, then if I substitute z equal to 0, what I will get is mod f dash of 0 is less than or equal to 1 minus 0 by 1 minus 0, because I am putting z equal to 0 and f of 0 is also 0, I must, if I assume 0 goes to 0, then I will get mod f dash of 0 is less than or equal to 1, which is the differential form of the Short's lemma. So this Pick's lemma is a generalization of the Short's lemma, okay. The only point in Short's lemma is that you are looking at the derivative at the origin, the modulus of the derivative at the origin, and you are also assuming that the map takes 0 to 0. Now you are relaxing both the things, you are taking any analytic map of the unit disk into itself, and you are saying that the derivative modulus of the derivative at any point has a bound, and this is the bound, okay. And again, just like that case, you will get equality if and only if f is a automorphism, okay, otherwise you will have strict inequality, right. So further equality occurs for a point delta if and only if f is a holomorphic automorphism of delta. So this is Pick's lemma. Okay. So you see you can see the flavor of our arguments. We are more and more worried about the mappings of the unit disk into itself. The Schwarz lemma itself is a statement about the mapping of the unit disk into itself. So we are worried about the mappings of the unit disk into itself, we are worried about which of these mappings are automorphisms, and we are worried about properties of such mappings. Okay, and this focusing on the unit disk is actually leading us to studying hyperbolic geometry on the unit disk, which is essentially given by defining the so called hyperbolic metric on the unit disk. Okay, so this is Pick's lemma, and what do you do to prove Pick's lemma? It's a pity I erased this diagram here. I have to use the same diagram to prove Pick's lemma, but I will have to finally apply the infinitesimal or differential version of Schwarz's lemma. So let me remove, I do not want it to take values on the unit circle, alright. So let me remove this. Let me just assume that I am taking the map is from the unit disk to the unit disk. Okay, let me not make the assumption that f takes a boundary value, right. It is a map from the unit disk into the unit disk, right. So so the diagram is the same. So I have this unit disk, I have the map f, and it goes from the unit disk to the unit disk. Okay, and this is w equal to fz, this is z plane, and this is the w plane. Okay, and well, if you take a point z0, it will go to a point w0. Okay, and I want this w0 to lie inside the unit disk. That is the reason why I did not take f to be a mapping from the unit disk to its closure. Okay, so I want w0 to lie inside the unit disk, right. And well, if you take any point in the unit disk, it is going to go to a point inside the unit disk, because I've removed the bar there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, as I did before, I'm going to put here this map which is an automorphism unit disk which takes z0 to 0. Okay, and what is that map? So if you remember, I called this the zeta plane earlier in this lecture, and then I wrote a map like this. I wrote a map like this, which is G, which is an isomorphism. It's an automorphism unit disk which takes 0 to z0, and its inverse is an automorphism of unit disk which takes z0 to 0. And you know what that map is? It is simply z going to z minus z0 by 1 minus z0 bar z. This is the map, and this is our zeta. Okay, and this is G inverse. Okay, and I am taking G to be this map, so that it takes 0 to z0, because G inverse takes z0 to 0, G will take 0 to z0. Alright, and I have f here. Mind you, f is not an automorphism. Okay, f is not an isomorphism. It is not even given to be 1 to 1. It is only given to be analytic. Nothing more is given about f. Okay, and then here what I do is I take this map from here, neta is equal to h of w to this lands in the neta plane, and I'll take an automorphism unit disk that maps w0 to 0. Okay, and you know what that map is? What is that map? It's w going to w minus w0 by 1 minus w0 bar w, which is your neta. Okay, so I have this set of maps. Alright, this is an isomorphism, the last one is an isomorphism, the central one is just an analytic map. The central one is analytic. I do not know it is 1 to 1 I don't know its onto, I don't know anything about it. Now what I do is I compose. If I compose, what I get is G followed by F followed by H. If I compose, I get H circle F circle G. It is a map from the unit disk to the unit disk, okay. I cannot again say anything about this map except that I can only say 0 goes to 0, okay, because 0 goes to Z0, Z0 goes to W0, W0 goes to 0, so 0 goes to 0, but that is good enough for me to apply the Schwarzschild lemma, the infinitesimal version of the Schwarzschild lemma, which will essentially give me the proof as you will see. So apply differential version of Schwarzschild lemma to this composite function H circle F circle G. What will you get? You will get H circle F circle G derivative at 0 modulus is less than or equal to 1. That is what the infinitesimal version of the Schwarzschild lemma says. The infinitesimal version of the Schwarzschild lemma says whenever you have an analytic function unit disk to unit disk, which takes the origin to the origin, okay, which visits the origin, then the derivative of the origin has modulus less than or equal to 1. So H circle F circle G is an analytic function from the unit disk to the unit disk which takes 0 to 0, so its derivative modulus of the derivative at the origin cannot exceed 1, okay. But what is this? This is, if you see, this is G dash, you see I will have G dash of 0, okay. So if I differentiate it using chain rule, I will get H dash of F of G of 0 into F dash of G of 0 into G dash of 0. This is what I will get. I will get this, because if I differentiate this by chain rule, I differentiate the outermost function, then the next inner function, and then the next inner function. This is just the chain rule, okay. And but this is what you see, this is mod G dash of 0 mod F dash of G of 0, but what is G of 0? It is Z0, so G of 0 is Z0, and what is and I will have mod H dash of F of G of 0, which is W0. This is less than or equal to 1. I will get this. Alright, so I will tell you what to do. What you do is you calculate G, write out G, alright. G will be just zeta going to zeta plus Z0 by 1 plus Z0 bar zeta. You just have to change minus to plus, that will give you the inverse map, okay. You differentiate it and substitute 0, okay. You literally calculate it and you will get mod F dash of Z0 is less than or equal to 1 minus F of Z0 the whole squared by 1 minus Z0 the whole square. You will directly get it. It is direct calculation, ordinary calculation, nothing to do, nothing complicated. And since this is true for any Z0, you get that estimate, alright. It is just straight calculation, ordinary differentiation, right.